We want to go right now to President Biden, who's holding a meeting with cabinet officials and governors about the heat and wildfires in the West. Let's listen in.
Horrific scenes from last year. Orange skies that looked like end of days, smoke and ash that made the air dangerous to breathe. More than 10 million acres burned. Billions of dollars in economic damage. Families that lost their homes and everything they own. And too many lost lives. And this year, there could be even tougher based on the weather patterns. You know, California and some other places, the drought conditions are twice that's what they were last year. And right now, we're seeing record heat in Portland and across the West. And this year, 21 large uncontained fires were burning. This year, there are 36 that are uncontained and burning. There are already about 9,000 firefighters deployed across the region, from California to New Mexico to Utah and Nevada, and it's only June. I realize I'm preaching to the choir here. I know you all know this better than any other people in the country. The fire season traditionally lasts through October. But with climate change driving the dangerous confluence of extreme heat and prolonged drought, we're seeing wildfires of greater intensity that move with more speed, and last well beyond traditional months, the traditional months of the fire season. And that's a problem for all of us. Wildfires are not a partisan phenomenon. They don't stop at a county or a state line, or a country line for that matter. We need a coordinated, comprehensive response with all the federal government working in close cooperation to support you, the states. That's what this is about. We want to know what you, the states, the localities, and tribal governments, and those in the front lines are facing in this danger, and what you think would help the most. Today, we're taking critical steps to help protect American communities right away. First, we're going to make sure that we have enough firefighters on call who are trained, equipped, and ready to respond for all this fire season. And we're going to pay them. The idea these folks are running into anyway, we should pay them. Last week, I learned that some of our federal firefighters are being paid less than $13 an hour. Come on, man, that's unacceptable to me. And I immediately directed my team to take decisive action to fix it. So today we're announcing what I still think is not enough. This year we're going to provide retention incentives that's going to ensure federal wildland fires, our firefighters are making at least $15 an hour, and provide for additional 10% bonuses for those working on the front lines. But a one-time boost is not enough. These courageous women and men take an incredible risk of running toward the fire, and they deserve to be paid, and paid good wages. You know that old expression, God made man, then he made a few firefighters? Well, it's true. They're incredible. I've spent a lot of time, my whole career with them. So we're going to work with Congress. I know many of your senators and representatives have been working hard on this to permanently get federal firefighters a better deal, including improvements in their compensation, their benefits, and their work-life balance. The federal government is also offering funding, when governors request it, to train and equip National Guard members so they're ready to provide a surge of firefighting capacity. You know, one of the things I learned over the years, being so deeply involved with the firefighters, the only thing that saves a firefighter's life is another firefighter. That's the single most consequential thing. And you know, one of the hardest speeches I've ever had to make, and we've all made difficult speeches, was at the funeral of the 19 Granite Mountain hotshot firefighters when the Prescott, Arizona Fire Department got clobbered. That tragedy happened 8 years ago today. That's the reason I mention it. It's hard to remember of all the costs that firefighters risk when they do their job, and their bravery to step up and do the job. Now, traditionally, federal firefighting has been a seasonal job. But because of climate change, and I know you all know it, I hope your constituents know it, there is climate change. It's no longer a seasonal job. This is a year-round mission. So we've made sure seasonal firefighters can stay on the job as long as they're needed this year by allowing them to work beyond their term. And for next year, we're working to make more of those positions permanent positions. So so that when fires aren't burning, we have a workforce of experienced hands, enhancing our forest management, reducing the risk of future fire in the future fire season. Second thing, we are harnessing new tools and technologies to better identify and respond before new fires grow into large, uncontrolled conflagrations. So, for example, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, has satellite technology that is able to see from space when new fires start while they're still small, even as small as the size of your dining room table. Similarly, the Department of Energy has a sensor array computer analysis capability that can detect in real time the lightning strikes that might set off a blaze. And we're going to use those tools to identify fires that start in remote places and share that information so the firefighters on the ground can respond immediately before fires spread out of control. I know that's not a full answer, but it's real. It will improve things. We're also going to make sure that the people have the information to better protect themselves and their families from smoke and fire risks. This will include launching a new app from EPA so individuals can easily access the latest information on air quality, smoke plumes, and public health guidance. Third, we also have to make investments in our future. That's why the bipartisan infrastructure framework investment of about $50 billion by so-called, anyway, I won't go into it, but a bill that's caused a little attention, infrastructure bill, is going to build resilience to extreme weather events like wildfires, $50 billion. And today, I'm announcing a $37 million federal grant to Sonoma County, California, in support of fire mitigation efforts that are underway. This grant is part of FEMA's BRIC program, Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities. My administration doubled BRIC funding to support local efforts to strengthen resilience. And because Sonoma knows all too well the devastation wrought by fires, they were the first to apply for the mitigation funding. I encourage more communities to do so next year. And finally, I want to note that the extreme heat we're seeing in the West is not only a risk amplifier for wildfires, it's a threat in and of itself. People are hurting. It's more dangerous for kids to play outside. Roads are buckling under the heat. I need not tell all of you. We need people to check on their neighbors, especially seniors who may need a helping hand. Outdoor laborers, like our farm and construction workers, are going to need frequent water breaks and shade. I want to thank the governors and local leaders for providing information to citizens and the resources like cooling centers where people can go to get relief from the heat. And to our utility leaders, we are ready to work with you to make sure that people have access to power, including air conditioning, under these extreme demand conditions while continuing to advance our climate goals. Now, I'm eager to hear from each of you, each of the governors, as to what experience has been in your state and what we can do better to be helpful, because this is an area where investing in prevention and preparation today is going to deliver invaluable returns tomorrow. And the federal government is going to have your backs, and that's my intention. I'll close by just saying thank you to everyone from the Forest Service, to the Department of Interior and Agriculture, to FEMA, state and local and tribal partners, and most importantly, our firefighters, for all your incredible work. We've asked so much of the firefighters already, and I know you're going to continue to step up. Now I'm going to ask the Vice President Harris to say a few words, and then we'll move on. Madam Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I just want to thank the President for prioritizing this for his administration. This is a personal issue for me as a daughter of California, and I say hello to my governor, Gavin Newsom. I grew up with drought warnings. My brother-in-law is a California firefighter. As a senator, I have visited the scene while the embers were still smoldering of the fires, Paradise, for example, California. And when I arrived there, a whole community had been wiped out by the fire. The families still hadn't been let back in. But the only thing standing in that community were the chimneys, which looked in that scene like tombstones. The firefighters that were there pointed out to me, if you look at the driveway, it may be a tragic situation if the cars are still in the driveway, because that means the folks didn't get out in time. We have so much work to do on this. My home, our family home, was under an evacuation order in Los Angeles. So I've been in that experience of also saying, look, the most things we can grab that are the most valuable are family photographs. Everything else doesn't matter. So when I think about the challenges that we face as a nation, I know they are real. I also know that we're in a different climate, as the president said, on every level than we were even 10 years ago. And there's a lot of work to do. And part of the leadership of this administration has been to also recognize that the federal government's role in this regard has to be more than just putting out fires. It needs to be obviously supporting our firefighters, especially at the federal level, who are not getting paid enough, but it's also about investing in resilience. It's about investing in adaptation, diversifying water policy in a way we are thinking about the storage of water both above ground and underground. We're thinking about recycling and all that we know is available to us to actually be smarter in terms of the conservation of this diminishing and valuable resource called water. So I want to thank everyone for your leadership, because you all are giving people a sense of confidence while you are trying to bring limited resources to what needs to be addressed in this growing threat of these wildfires. And the bottom line is that, as the president has said, his bipartisan framework for infrastructure, it's going to address a lot of these challenges, but there is other work to be done. And so I look forward to staying in touch with all of you. And again, thank you for your leadership.
Well, thank you. Governor Brown, if you'd be willing, you could give us an overview of what the challenges are you Western governors are facing and what you think we should be doing and can do to help. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. President and Madam Vice President, for having us here for this incredibly important conversation. As you well know, we Western governors, our states are truly on the front lines when it comes to drought, fires, and our rapidly changing climate. We were talking earlier before you got on. Just this weekend, my state of Oregon experienced 3 consecutive days of record-breaking high temperatures.
And there you have it. President Biden speaking in a virtual meeting with cabinet members and governors about the record-breaking heat, drought, and wildfires raging in the West. Biden says the extreme weather is becoming a regular cycle, that it's getting worse. We're seeing fires with greater intensity, moving with more speed, and lasting beyond the traditional fire season. He outlined measures to help address the issue, including now hiking pay for federal firefighters to at least $15 an hour and bonuses for those on the front lines. Let's bring back in ABC News political director Rick Klein for more. Rick, President Biden says that climate change is driving the fight for these fires. That is no longer seasonal work, but now a year-long mission. How has the administration worked to fulfill that campaign promise to combat climate change so far?
Yeah, I mean, this is an existential threat in the view of the Biden administration. I think the scientific consensus backs that up. And using these events recently, including the record heat and the wildfires out west, you're seeing a direct effort to try to address that here from the administration. And it is something that is become an increasing focus of the administration. On day one, as he promised, rejoining the Paris Climate Accord, setting new greenhouse gas emissions targets, and committing billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars to retrofitting the economy, encouraging the development of green energy and green energy jobs. This is an element that actually was a pretty substantial part of the COVID relief package. It drew some criticism from people saying this isn't really part of COVID, but in Biden's view, it's part of the broader economic recovery, and it's a much more major part of the 2 packages on infrastructure and so-called human infrastructure that the administration is pushing right now. Both of those packages include extensive investments in green new energy, try to make this part of of a holistic approach to rebuilding the economy in a way that is environmentally sustainable.
And Rick, among the measures that President Biden outlined, he talked about harnessing new tools and technology to respond before fires grow, like technology from NOAA that can see fires when they're small before they grow. He's been under pressure from progressive Democrats to do more to fight climate change. Do you think the measures that he outlined would be enough, or what would they like to see?
Well, look, for some progressives, this is a #1 issue and the only issue that needs urgent addressing. There were whole presidential campaigns that were built around that initiative, and Joe Biden's really wasn't one of them. He's always been an advocate for rather dramatic action to address climate change, but prioritizing it and putting it ahead of even COVID relief is not something that Biden has necessarily bought into. That said, what he has talked about these are big, expensive initiatives. They are significant initiatives. They're in line with other countries that are taking dramatic action. We've seen just in his meetings abroad a few weeks ago, him come together with European leaders to try to address these things. But there's a big choice ahead for Joe Biden, which is surrounding these infrastructure packages. You've got some progressives who say they're not going to sign on at all to the bipartisan deal unless they know that there are major climate change initiatives that are also going to pass in Congress. They don't think it's nearly enough. That's the chip that they're playing, the leverage that they're trying to wield on this package, knowing that this is still a partisan issue in the United States, and knowing that withholding their support could sink the package. We'll have to see how they play that. Biden has tried to calm that down. His administration saying repeatedly these packages are good for the environment, good for the world. They help heal the earth. But I'll tell you, there's a lot of skepticism about whether he's going far enough and whether he is putting enough of his own initiative and his own energy into pushing this.
And to your point about partisan issues, the president there in that meeting made it a point to say wildfires are not a partisan issue. And some Republicans have now started their own conservative climate change caucus, breaking with former President Trump, who called it a hoax. What's driving that change? And Rick, a question that so many people will probably ask, what took so long?
Well, I think there's two easy answers to what's driving it: science and demographics. The science is undeniable, and anyone who takes an honest look at it recognizes that that climate change is happening and that humans contribute to it in a substantial way, and that makes it an urgent issue. The demographic part, is that polling suggests that younger voters in particular are much more likely to prioritize climate change as an issue, to see it as a real challenge, to see it as man-made, and see it as something that government needs to address. So you have some Republicans who are responding to that. There's long been a strain of conservation and even environmentalism in Republicans, going back to Theodore Roosevelt and through Richard Nixon and George H.W. Bush. It has, though, for whatever reason, become much more of a partisan issue. It really isn't the norm outside of the United States, but it is here. And most Republicans at the national level, at least, have some degree of skepticism, if not toward climate change, then about what can be done about it. So you're seeing now some Republicans pick this up and say there are ideas that you can bring forward that are common sense, conservative ideas that can address climate change, but also protect the economy. And in fact, some of those ideas made their way into that bipartisan infrastructure package that was announced with such fanfare last week. So we'll have to see how that develops and whether Republicans begin to see this as an urgent issue as it truly is.
And Rick, we appreciate you sticking around with us to help with the analysis of that news from the president's meeting. ABC News political director Rick Klein there. Rick, thanks again.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.